spicy white boys are, all of the white boys that we have, they need to work harder for it. So I think it's a little unfair, and I think that that's a problem that needs to be addressed with the system.
Well, I mean, every there will always be every adjective for everything, right? And in this case, there's different things for everything. But right now, being a quirked up white boy is a trend. Maybe in a few years, it'll be the funky white boy, busting it down sexual style, go to with the sauce, whatever, blah blah blah, right? But like for right now, it's the quirked up white boy. The quirked up white boy has a shine. When I do feel that it is a little bit unfair at the moment they're getting all the attention because they were born into it. But everyone's time will come, and if you say you aren't necessarily completely quirked up, maybe you can you know, change your mentality to make yourself feel more involved with the go with the sauce community.
Yeah, I mean, see, as like an active member of the community, 'cause I like to say that I'm good with the sauce. I hate for newcomers to it. When they're not quirked up white boys, they get so discouraged, and they don't really fully understand that it's more, it's not literally about being quirked up, a white boy, or maybe even a boy. I could see a quirked up white girl busting it down sexual style, being good with the sauce. But, it just seems very closed off to beginners. So I think unless you're, really ingratiated in the community, it can be very difficult. So I think if like we as a community of quirked up white boys busting it down sexual style with a little bit of swag who are good with the sauce, I think that we should, try and make it more inclusive for new members.
I do agree, as I am a quirked up brown boy myself, but
Right, yeah,
he's
you understand not being, a member of the privileged class.
but see, look, these quirked up white boys are being held as the high standard, right? But this community is very accepting in the fact that you know, maybe quirked up white boys are held to the highest standards, but of course, me like a quirked up brown boy, or you quirked up mixed boy, or like a quirked up or a funky mixed boy. We have all these different adjectives, and it's very inclusive. Maybe it's not the top, but at least we're getting the opportunity to call us go to with the sauce.
And that is a very good point because 200 years ago, that was really the age of the funky white boys. And if you weren't, automatically a funky white boy, you couldn't do anything. You were locked off. So we have made some big strides in terms of progress and, who can really rise through the ranks. But it does take work, and there is, a lot of privilege involved. But I do think the system is getting better, and I think it's improving itself, every single day. Justin, you're playing Mithra. You said you wouldn't do that.
Justin,
Oh, he's gone.
look, part of the inclusive argument of quirked up white boys, busting it down sexual style, I think is when you're a quirked up white boy, a part of it comes from, being born into that, obviously. But I think a part of it is also just being the mentality. And when you see all these quirked up white boys praising you for being different, it's a lot better than it used to be, because like before it was strictly the whatever the trend was, right? Like let's say the 500 years ago, there was the spicy era. There was all the spicy white boys. But now these spicy white boys that are being born in today's world are being born into a world where quirked up white boys are very privileged, and they have the utmost sense of security in society. So I think as the trend goes on, I think more people will be more inclusive because these quirked up white boys and these spicy white boys, funky white boys, whatever, quirked up brown boys, all these different types of people, races, whatever, right? They as time goes on, people will start to come to their senses as a humanity and be more inclusive in the entire spectrum. And as a society, we're moving forward with this.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point, but it does raise a question because obviously the trend has been improving of inclusivity in the quirked up or whatever white boy community. But it is a little concerning because what happens if that trend doesn't stop? What happens if the good with the sauce community just becomes diluted with people who are not, they don't have any swag, or maybe they have too much. Maybe they're not busting it down sexual style, or maybe they're not even busting it down at all. So I do think we need to be careful about exactly who we let in, because if they're not willing to really live up to the spirit, then I don't think they deserve to be considered goaded with the sauce. I just don't think they've earned that.
I do agree in that standard because you have to be a certain there's a certain level of what you can do about being goated with the sauce to be considered goated with the sauce, you know? Like you gotta have a little bit of swag, obviously. Not too much swag. We discussed earlier that too much swag cannot always be a good thing. Like we discussed you know, being a spicy white boy, a funky white boy, all these different things. And I think that being at least somewhat part of, you know, that criteria is very, very important to the white the go to with the sauce community, you know? I do agree.
Right. Because I do think that as long as the Go with the Sauce community values hard work and believes in what we really stand for, which is, of course, busting it down sexual style with a little bit of swag, I think that we really can't go wrong. But we do just, we have to be mindful because if we let our standards slip too far, then what's even the point? Is anyone Go with the Sauce? Why should I keep busting it down sexual style if my neighbor next door, they're not quirked up, they're not a white boy, they're not busting it down, but they're still goated with the sauce? I just don't think that would make sense.
I think those are I think, you know, the base standards is a quirked up, maybe not white boy, but I think we need to be, I think all of these things are something that you can change in mentality other than, you know, being quirked up, which is, you know, an adjective, and then being a white boy. See, because, you know, there are certain things that people are born into, right? So that they can't help. So when they show that sort of passion for the white boy community, you know, the go to with the sauce community, I think they should be properly let in. And but I do think that there are base standards such as being, you know, quirked up, being go to with the sauce, you know, all these things. I do think there are base standards to it. Justin, if I make
And
this comeback, you better pay me $5.
and of course, earlier you mentioned the trend. 500 years ago we had the spicy white boys. 200 years ago we had the funky white boys, and now we have the quirked up. Obviously, we are in the quirked up era. But if the trend of inclusivity does not increase, this is just a hypothetical. But if we stop here, what does that mean? Will we just stay in this endless cycle? Will we keep getting new types of white boys, or maybe they won't even be white? Maybe for once the privileged class might be brown boys. What if we have the age of the spicy brown boy? What would you think of that?
I mean, I think, like I said before, I think as we're going forward, you know, there may be more inclusivity involved with these things that, you know, you are born into, you can't help. So maybe what I'm looking forward into the go to with the sauce community is as we go on, we're gonna realize that there are certain things that you can't help. So maybe instead of a quirked up white boy, you're just a person with a little bit of swag, busting it down sexual style, and those are the people that are considered go to with the sauce because there's, you know, so many different outcomes of what a person could be based on, you know, their genetics and stuff. So people need to realize that, especially as a quirked up bound boy myself, you
Well,
can't. There are certain things that you can't help. So I think maybe we're looking forward in a way where it's more inclusive.
I do agree with that, but some older members of the go with the sauce community, maybe those of the hot white boy. That was a short era, but it was still notable in our history. I
Hold
do
on, hold
think
on,
that
hold on,
they
hold on. My
might be
mom's.
more conservative. I think that they might not believe in a world where you're just a quirked up person, or even maybe just a person busting it down. So I do think progress takes time and it's difficult, but I think one day in a world where we're all just busting it down sexual style with a little bit of swag, we can finally call our planet go with the sauce. So it's been great talking to you, but unfortunately that's time. So guys, we'll catch you next time on the Go with the Sauce podcast every Thursday, 5 p.m.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Oh my god, dude, I'm start recording now.